On today's Olympic Hockey Daily, presented by Locked On NHL, the women's quarterfinal matchups are set. The men's tournament is underway, and we're going to take a look at the drafted and undrafted NHL top prospects in the men's tournament.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this Olympic hockey edition of Locked On NHL. I'm Rachel Donner from Locked On Flyers. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Ann Kimmel of Locked On Predators. And Ann, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
So the men have started to play hockey, and it was actually kind of exciting for the first couple of games. We will get into that and then talk about how the women's tournament will proceed from here. How you doing, Ann?
I'm doing great. I agree with you. At least, the men's tournament started off with some exciting games, so that kind of builds some momentum as they're going forward. But still a little tired, but ready to talk hockey.
Absolutely. And thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, and you can watch us over on YouTube. All right, so a little bit of news before we get into the women's tournament schedule for Team USA. Britta Curl is being added to the roster to replace the injured Brianna Decker. And Britta Curl plays at University of Wisconsin. She was on the Team USA squad for Women's Worlds last year where they won the silver medal. And she was part of the MyY Tour leading up to the games this year. So she's super familiar with Team USA, has been part of the squad recently. So I think she'll fit right in.
No, I agree with you. I think this is a great pickup. And, Team USA didn't bring a lot of alternates. But what they did do is have people ready to go. And Britta Curl being one of them, I think this is going to be, once we get her here and get her plugged in, it's going to be pretty seamless, or as seamless as it can be under the circumstances. So this is a great move for USA Hockey.
Absolutely. And speaking of Team USA in the quarterfinals, they are part of the first matchup that we'll see in those quarterfinals starting late Thursday night in North America, facing Czechia. And that'll be the 2 versus 7 seed. Then we have Canada versus Sweden. That is the 1 versus 8 seed. That'll be the morning game for us on the East Coast of North
Yes.
America on Friday. And then the next round of games will be ROC versus Switzerland and Finland versus Japan. Now, we're going to have a full preview of those matchups on tomorrow's show leading up to those games that start tomorrow night. So tune in to that for sure. We'll be talking to Erica Ayala, our colleague over in Beijing. So we're going to get some scoop right from China. The men's tournament is underway, like I said, and 2 great games, honestly. ROC shutout over Switzerland, and we had a familiar goaltender in there for ROC, right, Ann?
We did. We had Ivan Fedotov was in net. So we're going to talk a little bit about him. This is a name you're going to want to know, and you will know some more about in just a few minutes. We also had a really great game this morning too. Czechia lost to Denmark, Denmark's first Olympic appearance, and beat a team that, has a storied history in the Olympics. So I thought that was a pretty exciting game to watch this morning, Rachel.
It was. And, Czechia has been talked about as maybe a possible winner of this tournament. So to see first timers Denmark beat them in this first game was pretty exciting. And not only did we get 39 saves from Sebastian Dahm in net for Denmark, but we got a Frans Nielsen penalty shot goal. Just trademark Frans Nielsen. So that's fun to see for NHL fans as well.
It was a great game. And so much of hockey people say is puck luck. Denmark definitely had that working in their favor. Czechia was very close to tying the game up in the very last minute of play and ended up hitting the crossbar and the puck bounced out. So everything went Denmark's way, and it's kind of an exciting way to start the men's tournament with this upset that reminds you that hockey is not always super predictable.
That is true. Well, there are a lot of NHL veterans in this tournament, like Franz Nielsen, but there's also a lot of prospects that are currently playing around the world that have been drafted by NHL teams, as well as a couple of draft eligible prospects. So, coming up next, we are going to talk to our prospect expert, Russ Cohen from Elite Prospects, to tell us all about who we should be keeping an eye on in this men's tournament. All right. So heading into this men's tournament, we thought it would be a good idea to look at it from the perspective of all of the prospects that we're going to be able to see over the course of this men's Olympic tournament. And some of them are already drafted, and there's a couple draft eligible guys as well. And who better to talk to about all of that than our good pal, Russ Cohen? We're going to bring him on right now. Russ Cohen covers prospects all around the world for Elite Prospects and other outlets. And so we thought we'd do a rundown of all of the teams and who to keep an eye out on. And of course, I think the first country we should take a look at is Team Canada. And of course, they have probably two of the most high profile guys in the tournament with Owen Power and Mason McTavish.
Yeah, so Owen Power, we'll start with him. He'll definitely be one of the best defensemen in the tournament. It really won't matter about age, I don't think. He makes plays at speed. He makes these high risk passes at low risk rates. Like for a lot of other defensemen, that you look at it and it's like, you don't know if he can make it. He never thinks that he can't make it, and most of the time does make it. So his brain doesn't really work that way. So he's always looking for like the optimal offensive pass to get the puck up the ice and get the offense moving. Very, strong. I think his physical game's starting to come out a little bit, and that's a big deal. He besides moving the puck well, he's another one of those defensemen that knows when to pinch, and he's a big body when he gets around the net, and he really can bury it, and he's hard to deal with in the crease. So that's another issue. But he will quarterback everything on the power play. He will. I mean, I don't know if he'll be on the first power play. Who knows? Canada gets weird. Like a lot of deployment.
Yeah.
Like
they overthink things a lot too.
They do a lot of deployment things. I can't guess what's going to happen because some of these things do get weird and political and whatever. So, but he is capable of doing that. He definitely will score points. He won't make a lot of mistakes, and he really does good puck strips. He's not always going to level a guy to get the puck. That's not really his game, but I think you'll see it once in a while. And then McTavish does everything well. Like he's fast, he's two-way. He's extremely dangerous around the net, but he could hit a wrist shot from 10 or 15 feet out. Very good passer, really high hockey IQ. That's what's let him do all of this now. That time that he played overseas really helped him. And he's just a high octane guy. He may not be the fastest guy in the ice, but he might be one of the faster thinkers. And so that's something where that really does come into play for him.
Of course, we should mention that Owen Power is a prospect for the Buffalo Sabres, and yes, Mason McTavish is with the Anaheim Ducks. Now, we're going to talk about Josh HoSang here because, of course, he was a New York Islanders draft pick originally, but currently has an AHL contract with the Toronto Marlies. And this tournament could be a showcase for him to maybe get an NHL contract.
Yeah, I think so, because if they're a team that thinks about making a move at the deadline and looking for an offensive player, they may not have to look any further, and they could, get him on a reasonable deal. So I do think this is an important tournament for him. I last saw him against Lehigh Valley like 2 years ago, as far as live. But here's the pluses about Josh HoSang are great. Like he gets the puck through the neutral zone really well, very fast. He's an edges guy. He has great vision. He could make a terrific cross ice pass, or he could dangle it and bring it in on his own. He's got a great shot. There's very little he can't do offensively if he's feeling it. But what he can do that could hurt you is take dumb penalties. He gets frustrated at times. His two-way game is okay. I think it has gotten better since he's been with the Marlies. But he is a guy that if he feels some frustration, he may take a dumb penalty. So that's something where that could derail him a little bit. But everything else has been good for him, and he's been great in the AHL. And so I'm hoping this is a really good tournament for him, because what happened with the Islanders was just lousy for him. I get it. Some of it was him at the start, but he was also a young kid.
So there's one more prospect, I think, on Team Canada that I'm curious about, and that's Devin Levi, who's a goaltender in the Sabres system.
Yeah, he's really, really good. I don't know if he is a future number one. I think he might be a 1A, but he's really fast post to post. He is smart. He's a read and react guy. He's not a guy that stays deep in the net either, so he'll come out and smother shots when he needs to, and that's, you need to do that. Like, I think we saw that in Olympic hockey in general. You need to come out of the net. We saw that in the women's game, and I think you see it even a little bit more in the men's game, because if you don't, then you're going to be trapped in there. And so sometimes you do have to go out there and cut out the angle. He does that. He's smart. And I do like his post-to-post speed, and I think that is something, even though this is NHL ice, a lot of these guys are used to doing wraparounds and things like that, and he is really good at hugging the post. So I do think he's a great goalie choice. The interesting thing is he would be playing in the Bean Pot right now, and he's not, and his understudy there is stealing the show there so far. So I don't know what's going to happen when he gets back to Northeastern. He might, have to split some time.
Oh gosh, that's gonna hurt a little bit.
But if he wins a gold medal, then he won't, right?
I mean, that's not a shabby consolation prize. So let's talk a little bit about Russia. Russia has a couple players that are worth mentioning here. What can you tell us about Kirill Marchenko?
Yeah, he is a guy that has a lot of dangle in his game, especially when you get around the net, maybe 8-10 feet away. He could do that snapshot. He could be on one side of the net and then quickly get on the other side, either looking for a pass or carrying the puck. He's a guy that will always look for that open area, whether it's low, to the right, to the left, high, right. He could hit them all. He's like one of those guys that's extremely accurate from there, gets a lot of flex on the stick, and good two-way. So I don't know how he's going to get deployed on ROC. He could even be a third liner there, simply because he's one of the younger guys, and they're going to play all the older Russians on the first couple of lines. But I would have him on the power play. I would play him on the second line, but that's just me.
Who else are you keeping an eye on as far as Team Russia goes in prospect player?
Well, I mean, Ivan Fedotov, I think, is an interesting one the Flyers pick, because he's a 6'7" goalie, and Russia always has issues with their goaltenders. I had reported, because I have a source that it works with the KHL, and Yaroslav Askarov should be on this team. But Yaroslav Askarov, had a couple bad moments in the World Juniors, and then for some reason, because he's going to go to North America after this season, he is getting ostracized. And so they invited him to camp, but I kind of knew it was like hollow, and he was never having a shot to make the team. And I think he's better than every goalie on the team, honestly. He has more potential than every goalie on the team, but they didn't have him come. And so I think Fedotov might get a chance to play, because he's had a good year. He can be very hard to shoot against. He makes these big sweeping leg saves. His only thing is, if he's one of those goalies that comes out and makes that kind of leg save, you've got to, as a defenseman, you got to be back in that crease there blocking shots, because it takes him an extra second or so to get back because of the size. But he's got a good glove, and I think he's the number 2 on that team. That's my feeling. But again, it's Russia.
Enough said.
Well, as a Flyers fan, of course, I want to see him get some ice time and get a chance to see him up against some top competition like this.
Yeah.
But there's a couple other guys from other teams that are have their rights held by NHL teams at this point. Maybe a lesser shot of coming over to North America. Definitely would be probably more AHL level, if anything. But on Switzerland, Dennis Malgin, the Leafs have rights to him.
Yeah. And for lack of a better term, he is kind of like a Swiss Army knife of a player. He is, because
there it is.
he's I know. It's like for him, it's unavoidable. He is fast, but he's not like super fast. He's more like slippery. He's very good two-way. He's smart defensively. He can surprise you in the offensive zone and find those open areas and get a goal. He's not super offensive, but I think the reason that the Leafs had interest in him was because of these other facets of his game. And it hasn't really happened for him enough for the Leafs to want to bring him over. And they need to. And they need to, because this is a trade that's not looked good for them. So this is a big moment for him. Like, if he had a good Olympics, he really could change the minds of definitely Leafs fans who have probably completely soured on him, and maybe even, Kyle Dubas.
And then another one the Chicago Blackhawks have rights on for China is Parker Fu. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so that's Spencer Fu's brother, who you might remember won it all with Union, with Shane Gostisbehere in that team. They did it in Philly. It was a fun Frozen Four that year. I did pick them. It was one of the few times I actually picked it right, and it was fun. And so Parker is the faster of the Fus, but the problem with him is he's not as good a finisher as his brother. So he's fast to loose pucks. He has good stick and puck control. He's good around the net, but sometimes can't finish. And so this would be a good tournament for him if he could get some points, because it's going to be hard, right? I mean, for China, it's going to be really hard, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity. And I think it could help him with the Blackhawks. He is only 23. And I think sometimes we forget that sometimes it does take a player till 24, 25. And so he hasn't really had any AHL time or anything. And maybe this gets him over and gets him out of Kunlun and in the KHL and gets him over into the AHL, into like Rockford. So we'll see.
Yep. We still, of course, have to talk about Team USA prospects. Can't wait to get to that. But first, we want to let you know about our friends at Built Bar. This is the time of year where we all pretty much sort of give up on those New Year's resolutions. But this year is going to be different. I'm going to stick to my resolution. I'm working on that healthy eating like all of us are. And Built Bar is helping me out. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because it's not work to substitute in a Built Bar. And you can always try the Built Bar Puffs. If you haven't tried them yet, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. So they're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar. It's like a little treat you give yourself. Puffs are a fan favorite, and they have some incredible flavors. They have a cinnamony churro, they have coconut marshmallow, and get this one, they have banana cream pie, which sounds amazing. They're going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars, including the Puffs, are covered in 100% real chocolate, so you're getting a good treat. Go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart, and you're going to be blown away. They are all high in protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most of the Built Bars contain only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and they are packed with 17 grams of protein. If you compare that to a candy bar, which at this point in the year we're all reaching for, let's be real, they have about 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So it's time to switch to Built Bar. They have so many delicious flavors. They have mint brownie, coconut almond. New this month, they have a white chocolate cookies and cream. That sounds amazing. There are new flavors always coming out, so be sure to check out their website all the time. Go to built.com and you can use our promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off of your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, and we're over on YouTube, so you can watch us over there. All right, so Russ is back. We're going to talk about the Team USA prospects. There's quite a number of them. But I think the top two that we're going to discuss, of course, is Matty Beniers, who was the number 2 overall pick by the Seattle Kraken last year, and then Jake Sanderson, who was the number 5 overall from Ottawa in 2020.
Yeah, so Matty Beniers is so close to the NHL. Like I got to see him most recently in World Junior Camp. And honestly, I felt like at the time he probably wasn't fully turning it on because he knew he'd make the team. But I would see these flashes that were just like so far and beyond anybody else who was in camp as far as a forward. He's fast, smart two-way, really good on faceoffs. Like he should be their number one center. He's a guy that plays the power play, plays the penalty kill. He'll play 25 minutes a game. It doesn't matter. He is a guy you want on the ice when the game is on the line. He's a guy when you want on the ice when you pull the goalie. He's a guy you want on the ice with 30, 40 seconds to go in the game. He could be a clutch guy. The interesting thing that you have to look for now is what's going to happen after the Olympics. Like, will he just go back to Michigan and will they all go and just try and win it all? Will he do a Brian Leach and go from the Olympics to the NHL? That's happened. I mean, you don't know. And the same goes for Owen Power. I think they're going to go back to Michigan. Can I tell you with 100% certainty if they get this taste and all of a sudden their teams want them? I don't know.
Interesting. That's got to make some people in Michigan feeling a little bit uncomfortable. What do you think
It's
about
always a
Jake?
risk. Yeah,
It is. What do you think about Jake Sanderson? How do you feel about his game?
Yeah, Sanderson's great. He has a great shot and he is good offensively, but he really does everything else perfect. Like he's great on zone entries. He's terrific defensively. He's smart. He will make it a good physical play in the corner. It's hard to beat him to loose pucks. He can shut somebody down. He does great puck strips and turns defense into offense. I don't know exactly how they're going to use him. He's capable of playing top power play, but he doesn't have to really exist. So that'll be an interesting thing to kind of see how he's deployed, but he'll be one of the better defensemen. And again, this is a guy that could play in the NHL now. So most likely he'll go back and play and finish out at North Dakota and then head out after that. A lot of these guys, if they go and finish out their college seasons like they're expected to, they could join the NHL after that. They could sign and start burning their ELC.
Right. I think it'll obviously depend on what the team's position is as far as contention and playoff runs and such. That's how that usually goes. But there's a few more 2020 draft picks that I think will be interesting to watch this tournament for Team USA. And the first of which is Brendan Brisson, who was the 29th overall pick from Vegas.
Yeah, so he's the son of super agent Pat Brisson. Everybody's heard of him. That's Sidney Crosby's agent and many others. But really, this kid's very smart. One thing he's had at his disposal is in the offseason, he gets to work out with Sidney Crosby and some of those great players. And it's really rubbed off on him. Like he is very smart out there. He's already good on faceoffs. He's fast. He is more of a playmaker, but he still can score some goals. I think on this team, I could see him probably on the third line. That's probably, but again, you never know in Olympic play, things can get weird. But very good. He's coming into his own, and he's a guy that you can't overlook offensively. He's not like Beniers type offense where he's like so flashy, but he could hurt you. So he's a guy that you definitely want to watch.
What about Brock Faber? He was another 2021 pick for the LA Kings. Where do you see him and how do you see his game helping this team?
Yeah, so Faber is probably the king of zone entries, especially going into the offensive zone. Just so good, fast, decisive, great passer. I think he's got a little more offense in his game than Sanderson. It'll be interesting to see if he'll get to use that, but also very smart defensively and more of a really good positional guy and cutting down time and space, but really a great passer with terrific vision and excellent hockey IQ. And a huge asset to the team. Like, it's just, again, he is a guy that literally could play any defensive position that you want, whether it's first pairing, second pairing, PK, power play. Like, he is that diverse in his game.
So one of the goaltenders for Team USA is Drew Commesso, who's a Blackhawks pick. And how much playing time do you think he'll get?
I think he's the number one guy, but Strauss-Mann's a little older, so you never know how the coach is going to sort of look at that. But Commesso, I think, has the better pedigree. You know, he was also slated with the World Junior team, went with them. He was going to be the main guy. He's good in there. He's smart. He's got a fast glove. He has like an economy of movement. He doesn't doesn't overplay anything, and that's good. He is another guy that reads ahead and reacts, and he's able to read the play, and that's smart. He can make the big flashy save when you need him to, but he's also that guy that doesn't stray very far and does have a good stick behind the net. So I think he's their number one. But again, I don't want to sell Strauss-Mann short. Was really good at Michigan. Let's see what happens there.
Another 2021 pick for the Habs, Sean Farrell. Where do you see him kind of fitting in here?
You know, that's interesting because Sean Farrell has got like great speed and does everything at top speed. I've seen him play, top line. I've seen him play third line. I think he could be anywhere in that top 9 and be okay. He is a terrific passer. Like, he's very gifted at passing, but he also could score. If he's got some chemistry going with the guy on his line, the give and go, he's great with that and really can cause some havoc to other teams. So you do have to watch him. You do have to sort of match his speed as a defender, and that's hard to do. And I think he's a guy that has come into his own. He played, during the pandemic, he played that extra year in the USHL that most guys don't. But he was smart. He continued to develop, and he scored just, bucket full of points. I didn't even worry about his points. I just think the fact that he kept playing and was able to round out his game a little more has really helped him. So Farrell could be one of those guys that, and I can envision an announcer for NBC saying has come out of nowhere, but really hasn't. But
right.
We're going to hear that.
Of course. But we're going to hear that a lot this tournament, I think.
Yeah.
The last Team USA guy I want to talk about is near and dear to our hearts, Russ, because it is a Flyers prospect, Noah Cates, who's a real interesting case, I think, just because his rights are expiring this year, and he's stayed at Minnesota Duluth to try and win one there. His brother Jackson is a Flyers property and plays sometimes in the AHL and sometimes in the NHL, but he could shine in this tournament.
He could, and he won't be playing top center because of Beniers, but I think he could play second line. But he is capable of playing fourth line too. Like, I've seen him where at Minnesota Duluth one year, they put him in a shutdown role. And then, now he's like a terrific offensive player for them too, and a playmaker. I've seen him where in the USHL, he was like one of the team's main scorers. And so he's a very versatile guy. He's very smart. He's smart with the puck. He makes good plays. He has good speed. He's not like a burner, but he also has a really good shot. He has a good one-timer. You could put him on the power play, but they probably won't. But he's a guy that could score 5-on-5. And I think at the end of the day, that's where his value is going to be. And my guess is, and I don't have the full roster in front of me, but I could see them going Beniers, Cates, Brisson, something like that with the centers, and that would make sense to me.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of Slovakian draft eligible prospects that look to potentially be first round picks in this upcoming NHL draft, and want to talk about them as well. So there's Jura Slavkovsky first off.
Yeah, they're both first rounders. I have my latest rankings. You could check them out on Full Press Coverage. I did version 1.5. Now, I know I'm not going to get annoying like Mel Kiper and do like 40 of them, but there's some sites that want it, and I do it on my own site. So now I'm doing so the next one on my site will be 2.0. You get the idea. Anyhow, Slavkovsky can really dangle the puck. Like, this guy has a lot of dekes and a lot of moves. So he is that guy. He's playing against men right now in Liga, and so that's a hard play for a guy his age. But he is a really good skater. He could actually make plays at speed, but his value is if you give him the puck, he will create something. He's very creative. Will he score at this level? I don't know. But I know he'll be fun to watch. He could be that guy that does a lot of dangling and never scores too. That is possible, but we got to remember he's 17.
Wow. Yeah, I keep forgetting how young these kids are that are
Yeah.
draft eligible.
I know.
So the other guy on Slovakia is Simon Nemec.
Yeah, Nemec is a terrific offensive defenseman. He is one of those guys that he finds his points. He is a very good skater. He's got a good first pass, and he can set up plays. And that's what he usually is he's usually the guy that sets up the play and gets either the primary or the secondary assist. And that's what he is. He's like an assist machine. He's smart. He's not overly physical, but I think he could be very dangerous and adding offense to a team that, we're probably all not thinking about them, but they could be more of an offensive team than we're giving them credit for.
Well, I think there'll be a lot of eyes on the two of them, maybe some extra eyes on Slovakia's games this tournament for that very reason. I know I will. That's for sure. But this has been tremendous. A lot of guys to be watching in this tournament. A real good distribution amongst some of the different teams here. So a lot of exciting players to be watching in this men's tournament.
Yeah, I'm excited for the young guys to sort of get their chance. I like when the NHLers are in it, don't get me wrong, but I do think this is an interesting little change in it. But, for my take, there's still like some of the other teams have really, I think, relied on too many older veterans instead of having some of their youth. And, I'm glad the U.S. did the opposite, because I'd rather see the young guys go down and get the experience, and these will be the future Olympians. And I think that's more valuable than worrying about if they're going to win a gold medal this year.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Well, Russ, thank you so much for joining us again on our Olympic Hockey Daily. Where can people find your prospect coverage?
They can find it at sportsology.com, at eliteprospects.com, fullpresscoverage.com, gogts.com. It's a collectible site, but I still talk about prospects there too, and a few other sports too, football and baseball. So yeah, check out any of those, or just at Sportsology on Twitter. There's always a link.
All right. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, that will do it for today's show. Lots to take in as we move into the men's tournament. We'll be back again tomorrow with a look at the first batch of games in that men's tournament and a women's quarterfinal preview.